3 weeks after Kobe Bryant, his daughter Gigi, and 7 others were killed in a helicopter crash on January 26, 2020, Holley reflects on his respect for the work ethic and humanity of the former LA Laker NBA player. In this bonus episode of Season 1 of the Turnaround Podcast, Squirt describes what it meant to him the day the world lost one of the greatest athletes of the 21st century.
Yo, man, this beat crazy.
This is definitely our first conversation since the helicopter tragedy involving Kobe Bryant, his daughter, and those other 7 people who were on board the flights. And I was just like anyone else who heard the news. I actually was walking into work at the YMCA, and a colleague asked me if I had heard the news. And I said, nah, I haven't heard anything, about Kobe. What's up? What's new with him? So he said, man, he's dead. So I looked at my colleague like, what? Like, man, where'd you get that from? He said, man, it's all over the internet. So I immediately went to my phone after I told him that's just probably an internet rumor. Whoever started it, they own some ignorant-minded things. So I initially went to my phone and started surfing. I didn't find anything. And I told my colleague, I said, man, that's just some hogwash, man. Somebody just putting some rumors out there for what? I don't know. And, we keep the TVs on ESPN channels. So as I'm making my rounds, because I'm a branch manager, so as I'm making my rounds throughout the YMCA, I started noticing the TV had breaking news, and the breaking news was a helicopter crash. And that's all they kept talking about was the helicopter crash, and Kobe Bryant was aboard the helicopter, and his daughter was on the helicopter. And so at that moment in time, I started paying attention to the TV screen, and then I started getting a few text messages. One of the first was my mom's. My mom was the first person to reach out to me outside of a colleague. So I text my mom back, and I said, yeah, Ma, I just learned about it, but beforehand I didn't know about it. And I said, let me collect a little bit more information first before So even though I don't know Kobe Bryant personally, I know people who do know him personally. So he was nothing but a phone call away. So I reached out to the people that I know that has a personal relationship with him. And they was just like me. We all felt that it wasn't true, felt that it was just unbelievable. It definitely was devastating. Mentally, I checked out because I felt that loss, not just for him, but the other people who were aboard that helicopter. And one of my biggest weaknesses has always been my compassion for other people. And I immediately felt an immediate compassion and a sorrowfulness towards all of those families who had family members on those flights. 3 kids on that flight. And you start thinking like, one of the guys, he lost a wife and a daughter. And thinking about Kobe's parents, I thought about his wife who lost a daughter and a husband. And I had to try to, I had a staff and a facility to run. And I had to emotionally gather myself while at work because I had gotten emotional about it. I cried kind of like semi-uncontrollably. And once I got myself together, my eyes was just red throughout the rest of the day from crying. So I reached out to a few other people who I knew didn't have any type of relationship with Kobe Bryant, just as myself, besides mutual friends. But these particular people I reached out to don't even have mutual friends of Kobe. So I reached out to them and come to find out that they had gotten emotional about it, and they let me know it wasn't just me. Because then I felt a little better, like, okay, why am I crying over some guy I don't know personally, people I don't know personally? But it was a super sad devastation, a tremendous loss, not just to the basketball community or the basketball society, but the world, you know what I'm saying? Because, what he meant, what he stood for, and the things he was interacting with was vital, and it was necessary. It was most necessary. Being that I coach high school girls, I train other athletes, and I see the impact that I have on them, and my impact is nowhere near the scale of a Kobe Bryant, simply because he played upper echelon, meaning the NBA. He was a global icon when I am not a global icon. So people will gravitate to him a lot quicker, a lot faster, because, they see what he do on TV versus you'd have to search, to find anything relevant about me as far as basketball goes. At the point in time in my career, social media wasn't birthed quite yet. So it bothered me. And I haven't really been the same since it happened because, like I said, it was just a tremendous loss. And you can't replace that. I just felt like he had so much more to give, and even from a basketball sense. But the thing that bothered me the most about it was that this man had retired from playing that sport, and this man was being a father to his kids, his daughters. And I admire any man, especially a black man. I admire any man who fathers and nurtures their kids, because, let me say that again, especially a black man, because in the black community, in the black society, we have a lot of black fathers who are not present in their children's lives due to incarceration, due to running the streets on drugs, due to just being a deadbeat, meaning they just don't want to have no parts of the kid, period, point blank, because they was out for a night of fun, made a baby with some girl, and don't want to own up to their responsibility. So you get plenty of factors that go into that, and one of the largest things that I see is a lot of brothers incarcerated. And you got a lot of brothers who are dead, who were fathers, who were also children themselves because they had parents. And shit, no parent had to bury their child. So it hit me from that sense. This man's parents are still living. So this man's parents had to bury their child. Even though he's presumably grown, married, children of his own, he's still someone's child. Those other people who was on that flight were parents, brothers, sisters, aunts, uncles. Some of their parents probably still living. All around, it was just a devastating loss. And the amount of people who expressed their sympathy and condolences was something that I've never seen before. I immediately start thinking about the icons who passed away, like Michael Jackson. I don't even know if that was as great of a magnitude, even though the world knew Michael from a younger age up until his time of death. Prince, same thing. But we're talking about a guy who was pretty much practical, hands-on with kids in the form of basketball camps, clinics, and other community work. And being an international basketball player, a fan of the sport, I remember watching Kobe Bryant come into the NBA. He is only about 2 years younger than me, and so he's a peer. The world was introduced to this Mamba mentality, and the ironic thing about the Mamba mentality is I had that same approach to our respectful sport. I realized I was blessed with gifts to be able to play basketball, because everybody doesn't have those physical abilities or gifts to play a sport. My sport just so happens to be basketball, and that's a gift. Whether certain people look at it as a gift or not, it's a gift. Those are attributes that are given from the Supreme Being. And my approach to it was, I was like a workaholic. I buried myself in the gym. He called it a Mamba mentality. My name for it is Workhorse. One of my best friends, we call him Clee for short. Big shout out to my boy Original Sin, better known as Clee. He gave me the nickname Workhorse. And we played high school basketball together, and we went to middle school together, grew up together. This is a guy that stands about 6'5", 260. This ain't no little man. And we would go in the gym, And he looked at my work ethic and was like, damn, boy, you a workhorse. And to this day, that's what he called me, Workhorse. And Kobe's nickname was the Black Mamba. So people learned about the Black Mamba, but no one knew about Workhorse. So that was given name. I didn't chose that name, it was given, and I honored it because he was one of the few people that saw my work ethic. Because like Kobe, when I step on the basketball court, I transform into a different person. My alter ego takes over. Whether you want to call that person Workhorse, or whether you want to call that person Squirt, or whether you want to call them Stewart, doesn't matter. I transform into another person. And I play with a level of aggression that's aggressive but under control. That's always been my approach as I matured and I recognized my own basketball powers. My approach to it was controlled aggression. And as a teacher of the sport, that's what I teach, a controlled aggression. I'm aggressive on both ends of the floor. A lot of people don't see the workload that goes into playing any sport. You don't see what Serena Williams do behind closed doors. You don't see what LeBron James do behind closed doors. You don't see what Kobe Bryant did behind closed doors. All you see is when the lights come on and they perform right in front of your eyes, that's what people see. They don't see the pain that goes into it, the agony that goes into it, the feat that goes into it, the sacrifice that goes into it. And I made a lot of those same sacrifices, and I embody a lot of those same elements and characteristics as the Black Mamba. So I definitely would like to say my deepest thoughts, prayers, and condolences simply to go out to the family of those victims of all 9 people who were aboard that helicopter. But that was just a super sad day and a terrible way to begin 2020. Here we are, just almost 3 weeks removed from the tragedy, and I'm still trying to make sense out of it. And the only one thing that I can kind of get from it is we just human at the end of the day. Michael Jackson was one of the greatest performers that we've probably ever seen. James Brown, one of the greatest performers we've ever seen. Muhammad Ali was one of the greatest fighters we've ever seen. Kobe Bryant, one of the best athletes we've ever seen. But at the end of the day, we're just human. That's all we are on earth, right? But we have to leave here. It don't matter about your status. It don't matter about your skin complexion, your race, your creed. It don't matter about your spiritual belief. When your number is called, we got to go. And the only thing at this point in time that I can get out of that, because just like me and everybody else, it just didn't make sense. And we're all still trying to collect facts and listening to the reports. Looks like we might have to wait just a year from now before a final report come out about what really happened that caused the helicopter to go down. So with that being said, if a person means anything to you, he, she, family member, non-family member, if a person means anything to you, I suggest and I advise anyone to let that person know what he or she means to you, because you don't know when it's their time. You don't know when it's your time. I don't know when it's my time. And when I talk to my siblings, even though I don't talk to my siblings as much as I should, and that was another thing, I didn't know he had 2 sisters. I got 2 sisters, 2 younger sisters, 2 younger brothers. We don't communicate like we should, as much as we should, but we have good relationships with each other. And I let my brothers and my sisters know that I do love them. And my aunts, I try to pick up the phone and call my aunts, my daddy's sisters, my mama's sisters. And I try to let them know that I love them. And I try to spend as much time with them as much as possible, whenever possible. And my friends, my homeboys, I tell them I love them. When I see them, bump into one of my homeboys from high school, I think this was before the Kobe tragedy. I bumped into a homeboy, and we ain't seen each other in a while. And we started immediately reminiscing about high school, talking about how good of the days it were. And like I told him, we looked each other in the eyes, and I love you, boy. You know what I'm saying? And I meant that. So that's what it should be. That's the lesson I get from that right now. You have to let people know what they mean to you while they're here.
Thank you for listening to this bonus episode of the Turnaround Podcast. Stay tuned for Season 2 this spring, 2022. To show your support, please rate, like, comment, and subscribe wherever you stream the Turnaround Podcast. To learn more, follow @theturnaround_podcast on Instagram. To book Squirt for a speaking engagement or to have him as a guest on your podcast, please email theturnaround77@gmail.com. Thank you for listening.